What's up, folks? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name's Trevi. I'm here with Sung, and we're gonna talk about the Indomitus box set and the fact that Games Workshop massively shortchanged all of their vendors. That sucks. Sung, you know a lot more about this issue than I do. What's up with the Indomitus pre-order there, bud?
Well, let me start by saying they didn't shortchange everyone. Anyone that ordered under 45 boxes, I believe, got fully filled, right?
Oh, yeah. They just shortchanged many of their vendors.
Yeah, most. The vast majority of the vendors. But like locally, I know there was a few smaller local game stores locally to me out here in Colorado that ordered underneath that limit, right? And they were kind of able to live in that limit. So let's start with a story, if you will.
Story time.
Pizza time.
We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Game stores are hurting for money. Not surprising, right? There's limited to no in-store play, which has impacted sales. They still have to pay rent. And, hopefully they're paying their employees or they've been furloughed, but they're kind of hurting for money, right? 9th edition comes out. Everyone is pretty excited about it. We don't have a ton of lead time on it, but everyone's really excited about it. And the box has a ton of value, right? There is roughly $400 in Necrons, $400 in Space Marines, plus a limited edition book that is, as near as I can tell, priceless, right? I think they're going to put one in a museum.
Yeah, and not to mention, they also have some additional pre-order benefits, right? There's coins, there's objective markers.
Yeah, more on that later. Hashtag spoilers. They did not make as many of those as Indomitus boxes. So, obviously, it's a pretty cool box. It's a great value. It's $200. It's also worth noting that this is not a starter box, right? GW has branded it as not a starter box. So it's appealing to just a huge swath of their player base, right? You've pined on about the percentage of Space Marine players, and it is astronomical. And there's so much value in this box leading into a new edition. It was very highly sought after. So a lot of vendors, a lot of online retailers pre-ordered big numbers is what I'll say. I'm not going to reveal store names, but I have friends in different stores that were ordering between 500 and 1,200 of them. 1,200, 1,200 boxes. The way it works is you talk to your representative. You say, hey, this is how many I'd like. Your representative came back about a week ago at the time we're recording this and confirmed your number with you. You still weren't supposed to take pre-orders. GW explicitly said, do not take pre-orders for this product until the 11th, which is kind of their out in this situation. But they told stores a week ago, they kind of came back. Like some stores I know requested like 500, and maybe they said, well, we can get you 250. Right?
You're like, are you sure you want 500? You don't want like maybe less than that?
That's the thing, is that they told them a number that was much higher than 45. These stores were told from their representatives, and I'm not blaming the representatives, okay, this is the number you could have. So at some point, there must have been a disconnect between the amount allocated and the actual amount that was produced, because all of these places were given a number that was much higher. And then 2 days ago, by the time this video comes out, all the stores were contacted. Note, this is before the 11th. This is before a store is supposed to take cash for it. And they were told they're getting 45. So just to be clear, my buddy's store that pre-ordered and was told they were getting 1,200 boxes, they did pre-order sales for roughly 640 of them, which they weren't supposed to do. But they have credit card processing fees for 640 boxes. They are expecting another roughly 560 boxes on top of that. And they were told they're getting 45. Like 45 boxes, right? It is insane. And they've already talked to their customers. It's going to be really, I don't know how they're doing it. They talked about maybe doing a lottery system. They talked about rewarding kind of their oldest customers first. They're obviously putting box limitations on there. You can only buy one instead of the 2 or the 3 that people are buying. So it's been crazy to think of the numbers that they were told from the representatives they could take to the numbers they were then told they could have, right? 45.
Yikes.
So 24 hours after that 45 number was kind of floated out there and all this kind of settled, some online retailers, I have not found a physical brick and mortar, and again, I have limited information on this, some online retailers that are both brick and mortar and online, right, had their allocations increased from that 45. Now, the increase has been kind of a varying number, but we're not talking anywhere near 1,200. The numbers I've heard, again, are somewhere between like 1 and 200. The extreme story here is we went from 1,200 to 45 to 24 hours later, then we're talking, it was somewhere close to the 200. So they're getting a sixth of what they asked for. They're getting less than a third of what they accidentally took pre-orders for. But GW did at least come back around with another, a slight bump in allocation. And a lot of people are kind of wondering where that allocation bump came from.
So do you think that additional allocation was in response to sort of these retailers breaking the news that they wouldn't be able to fulfill their pre-orders?
I think so, right? I think they're trying to pee on a PR forest fire at this stage.
A little bit of damage control.
Yeah, a lot of the retailers went public with this.
Oh, for sure.
Why wouldn't they, right?
My
you need to address the fact
feed was on fire for a good 6 hours.
Yeah, because a game store doesn't want you mad at them. They would rather shift the blame to GW.
100%.
And to be fair, GW kind of deserves some of this blame. So one of the fears with this, and it turned out to be unfounded, was GW sitting on a large supply of these products themselves? And that seems like it wasn't true, right?
Well,
Australia sold out in
right?
under an hour. Germany sold out in under 30 minutes, including a huge amount of website issues. The UK sold out in 15, and the US sold out in 22 were the numbers I saw, right? So it didn't seem like GW was sitting on the lion's share of products for themselves.
Sure. But that said, GW's official pre-order date was July 11th, which was the same day that they would be taking pre-orders themselves. Is that correct?
Correct. They didn't want anyone taking pre-orders functionally before they did. Now, in their correspondence, you could actually take pre-orders before them. They weren't taking pre-orders till 11 o'clock local time for your given time zone. A little weirder for like the US, which is a country that spans multiple time zones, right? But they kind of had a window. Your store was allowed to take pre-orders kind of any time on the 11th, is my understanding.
Sure. Now, do you think that there is some level of vast conspiracy where Games Workshop wanted to push traffic to their own sales portals by, at the end stage, breaking this news that retailers wouldn't be able to fulfill the orders that they were promised, within 24 to 48 hours later, opening pre-orders on their own site and having people shift to buying directly from GW? Is that a possibility, or is my tinfoil hat too thick?
Hand me your hat. Let me put it on. That is a theory, and that is something that I was afraid of. However, I think based on the numbers and how quickly they sold out, it doesn't look like it. Fortunately, like I ran a couple bot scripts and I wasn't able to scrape an inventory quantity, and I haven't seen a reliable one out of there. But just given the time frames that they sold out on, like the obvious benefit of them selling it themselves is just increased profit margin, right? Mm-hmm. Like the cost of this product for a game store that's ordering from GW Direct is about what, 55%, right? Mm-hmm. So if GW can just consume that margin, right, it's just a lot more money in their pocket.
Sure.
So that was a theory. As a stockholder in Games Workshop, I can at least kind of understand with them wanting to make more money. However, I think if that was really what they were trying to do, then they would have had a lot more product on their websites, right? I wouldn't have anticipated a UK sellout in 15 minutes.
Sure, I guess, yeah, that definitely makes sense. But it also seems to me like a lot of that traffic is going to be coming from those people who purchased on other, third-party retailers. It's certainly possible, especially for kind of a limited release set like this, that the quantity could sell out that quickly, and especially if you prime people to aim them at one particular vendor, I guess, which would be that being GW.
I think the flip side of this is we can social engineer, okay, how many people on your Facebook feed are telling you that they don't have a box, right? And I think that's kind of what we circle back to is I still see a ton of people saying, I have US American dollars or like rupees or whatever your currency is, and they want to spend that on toy soldiers, and they're not able to, right? So I think from a social engineering standpoint, it looks like they actually just severely underestimated the amount of demand on this. The other theory, I'm going to hold on to your hat for a while. And let me be clear here. The theory that we threw out about them driving traffic to their own store, that is a theory. The theory that I'm talking about right now is 100% a theory. The things I talked about earlier are things that I've seen emails and I've had correspondence with different sales reps myself. The other theory is that a couple shipping containers are not making it like they thought they would. So the hope with the shipping container argument is there should be a resupply just a little bit down the road whenever these, I don't know if they're stuck in customs. I don't know if they're stuck overseas. I don't know if they're on the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. But one of the other theories, completely unfounded, is that a large amount of shipments never made it to distribution. And that is why we had the emergency, pivot towards the end. And let this be a warning to scalpers. If there is a heavy second wave just because of misplaced product, the bottom might fall out of your market before you're able to sell through your scalp product.
Yeah, and to give Games Workshop credit, we mentioned before that one of the reasons that this is hitting retailers so hard is that obviously we're still in lockdown and their business is going to be absolutely blasted. And throughout a lot of what I imagine is the production schedule of the box, a lot of which was manufactured probably in Asia. I know that GW does a lot of manufacturing in the UK, but has been moving overseas, so I don't know 100% where this set was manufactured. But in either case, the lockdown has affected everywhere in the world, and right smack in the middle of the production timeline for what I imagine this set would be. It may also have been that Games Workshop just the final number that they were able to get before the shipping deadline, which is usually about 6 to 8 weeks before you actually expect to have the product in your hands. That final number of finished units may just not have been known by Games Workshop until it was too late, right?
Yeah, and again, this is all speculation from us. We don't have any insight there. Like, I know that they used to have a manufacturing plant in the US, and that's since closed, right? I know that their large plant is in Nottingham. I thought that they had plants in Asia as well, that they had off-shipped some of that. But again, that's speculation that I unfortunately don't have insight into. If you do, let us know in the comments. I would always love to educate myself. Who knows what's actually happening? All I know right now is that the Indomitus box is very hard to get. The Indomitus box is being sought after by at least a dozen Necron players and tens of thousands of space.
Yes, this is 6 Necron players.
They are looking for it in multiples, and it is very, very hard to locate the price. As a Salamander player, I want 3 units of Eradicators, right? Because why wouldn't I? But to sprinkle a little bit of pragmatism into this podcast, or excuse me, this video right here is like, I'm still not playing in-person Warhammer 40k for a while. If I don't have all my toys on the 25th of July, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it turns out you can still play 3 units of Eradicators for $0 with no pre-order required on Tabletop Simulator.
Right now, they look like aggressors. Be warned, Trevi. I don't know if you know that. My aggressors
I played against somebody the other day using Assault Cannon Terminators, which was a lot more appropriate song.
So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully ladies and gentlemen and non-binaries, I don't mean to be pronoun exclusive here. I hope you were able to get your box of Indomitus. It took a lot of work for me to get the 4 that I am getting. I hope you're able to find it. Be sure to check your local game stores. I think that is your best bet. Online retailers at this stage are kind of swamped. There might be a secondary distribution. So you can order from GW, or you can order from a secondary distributor. The secondary distributor honestly doesn't get an additional discount. So they're distributing products slower and at a higher margin. But that is a second wave that online retailers will have access to. However, they won't get that product until very close to the 25th. So there is definitely going to be a second wave of online product available through distributors like ACD or Alliance. But we won't see that until close to the 25th because those secondary distributors receive products just like a store does. So the earliest they're going to get that product is going to be like the 23rd, right? So by the time that is then processed out of that warehouse and shipped somewhere else, we're probably realistically talking closer to the 27th. There will be a second wave of online products from an online distributor. I hope that online retailers are gun shy to sell that product where they physically have that product in your hand, but it will be interesting.
Definitely. If I may, I'd like to take my tinfoil hat back from you real quick and posit that if this was either a manufacturing or shipping or distribution hiccup on Games Workshop's side, it's interesting to me that they have been entirely silent on that front. I know a lot of other game manufacturers, looking at like Fantasy Flight Games in particular, who are extremely upfront about their current production schedule, so that delays are not a surprise to people if they do crop up. And it's surprising to me that Games Workshop wouldn't be forthcoming with that information if it affected their customers in such a dramatic way.
Again, yeah, I mean, this isn't a unique conspiracy theory I thought of. For some reason, GW communicated that we have X amount of product to their sales rep. Their sales reps then negotiated, for lack of a better word, with sellers and distributors at a quantity that they could have. When you ask for 1,500 and they come back and say, no, you can only have 1,200. You ask for 500 and they come back and say, no, you can only have 350. Clearly, they're just not gas bagging. For them to just totally have the rug pulled out of stores and be like, okay, now you have 45. Just 45. Doesn't matter how many you ask for, 45 is the number you get, right? So I don't know where they came up with that number. It kind of makes sense that something kind of catastrophic happened at the last minute. I don't know why they wouldn't own up to like a Titanic happening or something like that. But at the same time, like that's why I at least am willing to believe that conspiracy more so than kind of producing pretend pandemic within a pandemic to drive sales to their own.
It is a publicly traded company, right? So they wouldn't want to, I guess they probably wouldn't want to wear catastrophic events like that on their sleeve for the risk of it hurting their stock value.
Yeah, I mean, I own a small amount of GW stock, right? And yeah, there are definitely ways that you do and don't want to kind of spin things, right? Given everything that's going on. What I am comfortable saying, and this is all public knowledge, is like their stock prices fell, 8% after the announcement came out that they were going to be shorting product.
Boy. That is a lot for one box of Space Marines.
Yeah, well, for 45 boxes of Space Marines, that's what happens. A bit of a stock advice. I would not buy GW right now. They are riding a bubble. Anytime that a new edition comes out, their stock prices kind of increase dramatically. For just a sense of scope, like before the edition release, they were trading at under 70, and they closed at 101 last time the market was open. So now is not the time to buy Games Workshop stock, just so everyone is aware.
Makes sense to me. To finish that comparison, I did mention Fantasy Flight Games, and they are very upfront with their release schedule like that and their production schedule. They are a subsidiary, but they're not themselves publicly traded, so that probably has something to do with it.
The other thing that I'm not sure with Fantasy Flight is I think Fantasy Flight farms out more of their production than Games Workshop. I think Games Workshop is one of the few game stores that owns almost all of their production. I believe Fantasy Flight is still using third parties under contract. But again, I could be very wrong about that. That information is pretty old. Right?
Yeah, that sounds right. For sure.
But in that kind of situation, it's easier to be like, no, it's the distributor's fault or the manufacturer's fault. Because you're not the manufacturer, right? You can just blame this invisible person down the road.
I've been talking a little bit on this channel recently about some of the communication and maybe public image snafus the Games Workshop has had over the last couple of days. And I hope that this is not sort of a heralding or return to the Games Workshop of old that everyone remembers, from 10 or so years ago when you and I probably both left the hobby originally, because Games Workshop just was they were a sort of this, they lived in an ivory tower and they never communicated to the community, which is absolutely a requirement in order to support a community-based game like a Warhammer 40k. Their outreach and stuff on Warhammer community has been great, but on a lot of key issues, they remain silent. And I hope that is not a trend that continues into the future.
Yeah, we can only hope they do. So I saw your other video. I thought that was a great video. And yeah, I hope we have more insight into Indomitus. I really hope you're able to get your Indomitus boxes.
A bit of a closing thought. I hope people do not get their Indomitus boxes. I hope that all of the Indomitus boxes fall off a boat and never are delivered so that I don't have to play against Radek Aters at the next RTT I go to. That would be great. All right, Sung, I think that's all that we have to say about the Indomitus box. Do you have any additional closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Not Crucible, a battle for life.
Gross. You disgust me. Thanks for watching Tactical Tortoise. I hope you found this style of content informative. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like and subscribe and checking out Tactical Tortoise on Patreon at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise, where you can get early access to videos, exclusive patron-only videos, and other cool benefits like early access to T5S2 tournament pods. As I say in all my videos, if you are interested in T5S2, please remember to check out the Invitational happening August 3rd, one of the first fully streamed events occurring in 9th edition, and that will give a showcase of competitive Warhammer 40k in 9th edition at the highest level of skill as we compete to crown the very best online 40k player in the world. Unlike the things I said about Space Marines earlier in the video, I encourage everyone to keep it classy, and as always, have happy wargaming. Thanks for watching.